हरिः ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम। ओम सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांतिः। ओम तत्सत्। Feel your presence here. The very fact that you are present. You don't have to do anything, neither physically nor mentally. You do not have to make any physical effort or any breathing effort or any mental effort to simply appreciate the fact that you are present here now. You might want to change an uncomfortable posture, or you might want to have a certain state of mind. You might want to pursue a thought, a suggestion that comes from the mind, or you might want to get rid of some thinking process that is going on. All these are efforts directed at the body or the mind, or some memory, which is also mind. Other than these various conditions of your body and the conditions of your mind, you exist as a presence. You are present now, here. Just the simple fact that you are here. Now, that is common to all states of mind. No matter how you feel about this or that, positive or negative or neutral, you are present. You, the awareness, you are different from effort and non-effort. You are present in effort, but you are not the one when you stop making the effort. You feel like you are not making the effort. In both these conditions, the fact of you as the awareness, you are aware of I am making effort, you are aware of I am not making effort. No, this I am making effort. I am not making effort. Both are, these are thoughts about yourself. And you, the present awareness, you are the one who is aware of both of these. And you are different from this. You are neither the effort nor the effortless. See if you can appreciate it. Whatever is the state of the body or the mind, of your sense of self, let it be. You don't have to change anything to become aware of yourself as you are right now, to recognize to recognize your presence here and now. You don't need a special state of mind or body. You don't have to change anything that is here. You are awake and you are recognizing your presence here now. That's it. That's all. See if you can relax into this fact. Just consciously appreciate this fact. Just have to remember to not go behind any suggestion from the mind to do anything. No distraction, no control, no thinking, no not thinking. Basically, no trying. You don't try to alter anything. Whatever comes, comes. Whatever goes, goes in the screen of you as the aware. This is a certain attitude. You have to understand that your presence is self-evident. You are self-evident to yourself. You have to simply understand this and relax into this fact and not try to arrive at anything. Whatever suggestion for effort comes in the mind or body, in our computer language, no, don't click on it. Don't apply your will on it. Whatever you feel like doing, just observe that feeling. It will come, it will stay for some time, it will go. Next, some other feeling like urge to do something will come. It will hang on for some time and then it will subside. Like this. When you keep holding on to this will to not participate in the suggestion for any effort that comes from mind, just be firm in your resolve to just be and appreciate your presence and not encourage any effort. Just if you continue like this, to stay like this, you will see the quality of the mind changes. The background mind, the thoughts, the quality of your consciousness about your body, the breathing, the field of awareness, the quality will start changing. Let it change, doesn't matter. I'm just saying that it will change. No need to get excited about that. Continue to stay committed to remembering that to enjoy your simple presence here and now. You don't need to do anything. If you can commit to staying like this, whenever you get a gap, whenever you get some free time, as much as you can every day, you can see all the knots of the mind, all the drama that goes on, everything will just dissolve in this simple presence that is experienced effortlessly. Om. In the last class, we were discussing about a question about a general a question about childhood trauma affecting our decisions, etc. We discussed a general approach, a generic approach, and how the Vedanta and yoga we approach that. And then I concluded the class by saying the specific details of how to deal with that and in various levels we will see in the next class, which is now. Okay. So, continuing on that topic, all the residual effect of the various experiences that we go through, both positive and negative. In the case of trauma, mostly negative experiences, and the impression that has been made by them contributes to what is called chitta vikshepa. Okay, what we technically in yoga we call as chitta vikshepa. That which agitates the mind. The various factors, they are sitting there and they become a cause for agitation. Triggers, we say, these days we say triggers. So these various triggers are in the form of a reactive habit. So these various triggers are nothing but a mental habit of responding to certain experiences and a mental way of reacting to certain memories coming back into our attention. So you are reliving that experience, right? So whenever this trigger is activated, you relive that experience consciously or unconsciously, and that influences the way you see, the way you experience the current moment, the way you see the object that you experience, the way you see the people you are in touch with, the way you interpret the situation. A simple example, what we see in animals, right? Conditioning, they say. So this is just basically conditioning. Every time you see a dog, you you know nowadays it doesn't happen, but when I was a kid, I don't know why all the street dogs were always scared, because everybody was throwing stones at them or chasing them away. So now all the street majority of the street dogs are uh, you know petted and all that and over pampered, and to the extent that they go mad and bite everybody. But generally, if you feed the dog regularly, the moment it sees you, it will wag its tail, it will signal food, positive experience, positive reinforcement. Every time you have scared that dog, or you thrown stones, or you have shoot that away, so whenever the dog sees you, it will get fear and run away or bark at you. Negative reinforcement. The experiences we go through from childhood are nothing different from this. Okay? These are nothing more than conditioning. Now, when we are dealing with this residual impressions of negative experiences, we need to have a framework. I am dealing with them with what purpose in mind? That is what makes the key difference between becoming free or becoming more stuck into my own story. Should I be more stuck and buried in my story, trauma story, and make that my identity and then use that force to do this and that? Basically, various versions of reveling in my own trauma and create an identity out of it. Victimhood. So do I want to do that? Do I want to end up like that, or do I want to become free and experience life free from trauma? Experience life as it is. This entire life, from the Vairagya point of view, you say dukkha and all that. All life is suffering. All this talk is for not going behind external situations for the sake of happiness or satisfaction, not going behind temporary time bound goals. So the suffering of samsara is not in the way the things are. The suffering of samsara is because I create attachment through my ignorance driven way of dealing with life situations. I deal with life from the standpoint of ignorance, from the platform of ignorance coupled with likes and dislikes. And because of that, my very pursuits become a problem, a source of suffering, a source of pain. So the whole concept of vairagya is not vairagya, detachment, and all that. Is not for calling the world a bad place. Life is a bad place. It's not for cursing life. It is for recognizing the limitation in trying to find happiness in life through my ego, likes and dislikes, through my ignorance driven, limited, illusory individuality, and my limited faculties and all that, but having endless desires. So when I approach life like that, then the whole point of dukkha. So once the dukkha is gone, for example, a jivan mukta, a person who is liberated while being alive. For a jivan mukta, there is no dukkha, there is only ananda. A person, a liberated, enlightened, liberated person does not see life, whatever is the apparent, the dualistic experience that it appears like he is having. Once the mind is free from the clutches of ego, likes and dislike, forget even enlightenment. Even a nice, good sattvic mind without ego, which is lives in surrender to the supreme intelligence, that which is in tune with the supreme Ritambhara, that mind is always in joy. Have you ever seen a depressed saint? At least not in the yogic and Vedantic tradition. You don't see a depressed saint. A depressed person is not a saintly person. And no saintly person will be depressed. So life is Ananda. So I need to come to a point. What's wrong with my mind? Am I audible now? Hello. Yes, I am audible. Okay. Right. I don't know what happened. So, a person who wants to deal with trauma, as guided by the yoga, by the spiritual way, as guided by yoga, Vedanta, Tantra, or it's all basically the same approach, is dealing with the trauma experiences from the past from the perspective of becoming free. Means to be able to live life in joy, in happiness, in Ananda. Not doing things for the sake of arriving at some happy experience, but that living in Ananda means I do things, I express myself, I do things because I am happy. I don't do things for the sake of becoming happy. That is a huge difference. A person who is spiritually awakened and whose heart is free from blemish lives in a way that every action is an expression of Ananda. That is one's own nature. There is in fact there is a way of saying that every action is an offering to the divine. They say in Tantra, or it is a expression of Ananda in other ways. Both are same. They say if a truly awakened person, that person's walking is pradakshina, going around the temple. That person's talking is speaking mantra, is chanting. That person's sleeping is meditation. That person's eating is nevedyam. Like that we have in tantric literature. So the point is that we want to actualize this state of consciousness where we live life as we live as every moment as an expression of the fullness that is our true nature. Okay, that is called liberation, enlightenment. That's basically it, right? So when you are liberated while living means you realize your truth as Ananda, and whatever the body and the mind does is an expression of that truth. Ritambhara tatra prajna. So that is the goal or the purpose or the perspective with which we are going to deal with the trauma. So every time you have a limited negative perception of yourself that causes a feeling of shrinking, becoming small, feeling like a victim, whenever you feel like that, you have to immediately assume it is based on a wrong idea. No matter who has done what to you does not matter. Whatever anybody would have done doesn't matter because it's in the past, it's over. This fight for justice, getting the justice, that is another story. The justice is not for you. The justice is to stop that person from hurting another person. To stop that vicious cycle, to stop that perpetration of that evil, that pattern that caused you trauma, to stop that pattern so that it will not cause trauma to others. So it becomes an act of dharma. So arriving at justice, getting justice for a wrong action becomes, some childhood abuse or something. Getting that perpetrator to task, to punish that person or to make them pay for it or make them accountable for it, all that is part of dharma. It is not about you. It is not revenge. So revenge, I can understand revenge. Revenge is totally understandable. It is natural from a mind that is driven by identity, ego, and ignorance. Revenge is very natural. But when I feel revenge, my first response to revenge as a yogi should be I must not feel revenge. I have to stop that guy. That is another story. But me feeling revenge, I need to understand that it is limiting me first. It is hurting me first. That fellow already hurt me. On top of that, why should I hurt myself even more by getting into revenge? So, this is the perspective with which we deal with past trauma. It's extremely important, and it is not easy to arrive at this perspective with tremendous clarity, but it is fundamental and it is the first step, is to cultivate the right attitude with which I deal with trauma before I start using yoga techniques, before I start using these breathing techniques, chanting, visualizing, pratipaksha bhavana. We have a lot, you know, we have a whole encyclopedia of yoga methods to deal with past negative experiences, to clear them and to remove those knots and to free the mind from the clutches of trauma, from tamas, and make the mind, uh, happy and light. Chitta prasadanam. uh, there is no end to techniques, but before we go into any technique, to develop the right attitude and clarity of purpose by which my approach, my techniques, and everything to my past experiences, the traumatic experiences, the impression left by traumatic experience, how I deal with that before I start applying the techniques. This understanding and clarity of purpose is very, very important. Okay. Having said that, I will go to the next. So this clarity of purpose is there in the level what we call in our technical Panchakosha model. Okay. I will make you understand it through the Panchakosha model. We call it as Vijnanamaya. It happens at the level of Vijnanamaya, where I develop the right attitude, a healthy attitude that is based on knowledge, and the right purpose that is driven by knowledge. With that, I have the right attitude towards the impressions, negative impressions of past experiences that are left in my chitta or mind memory. Now, this exists, these, having said that, we will go into the technicalities. These past impressions exist in various levels. The effect of these past traumatic experiences manifest in various levels and they express from various levels. Okay. At the physical level, it becomes sometimes like a biological memory, and it brings out the panic response or a sadness response, all that. It is at the physical level, in the sense it is between the body and the mind. They call psychosomatic. Sri Aurobindo uses a fantastic word. He calls it vital, vital, emotional. There are a lot of categories he has made based on his meditative experiences. So the categories Sri Aurobindo has made, they make a lot of practical sense for dealing with this kind of experiences, uh, and more suitable for our current vocabulary, the way we think, the categories of functioning. But in the Panchakosha model, what we can say is it is it is between, it is in the between pranamaya and manomaya. Between pranamaya kosha and manomaya kosha, it is like a knot. It's like a knot in the sense granthi we say, right? A granthi is nothing but a pattern of action where a response to a stimuli comes without thinking, out of the power of habit. Like this, we say muscle memory, right? So now muscle memory is a certain intelligent circuit that is embedded, that has been formed through repeated practice. So if I give you a certain uh, stimulus, specific response will come out. It's, you can experience this in go and think in a, when you are sparring on the ring, you cannot think to give a response. The body should respond. There is no thinking. Once you empty the mind, the body should respond. So in the same way, most of the things, when people, when women expert cooks, when they cook, we can see in various parts of this is called muscle memory. Various aspects of life we see. In the same way, this trauma response becomes a kind of a body memory at the level of the glands, at the level of the organs, at the level of, it's a hardwired, we say. We get very hardwired. So that is somewhere between Annamaya Kosha and Pranamaya Kosha, because it deals with expressing of the urges. All the urges are at the level of Pranamaya Kosha. Now, when we experience at that level, usually it manifests as panic attack or heavy breathing. We have this, Vikshepa Saha Bhuvaha, the accompaniments of Chitta Vikshepa. The Vikshepa is accompanied by, some yoga students. Can you help me with this? Tukkam Daurmanasyam Angame Jayatvam Swasa Praswasa. And then, did I leave anything else? Can someone help me? Vikshepa Saha Bhuvaha. It comes in Yoga Sutra, I think. Whenever you experience sorrow, sadness, whenever you experience a bad mood, shaking of the limbs, you can see people are, when there is a, when you meet a person who had abused you or something, you suddenly bump into the person in a party or in some social gathering, you can feel tremor in your body. I have seen people having that, their hand is shaking, leg is shaking, right? Something. You cannot explain, it is totally unconscious. You are not even thinking, but the body is shaking. You don't know why. So that is Angame Jayat. Then there is heavy breathing, Swasa Praswasa. So these are all, these are various manifestations of the Chitta Vikshepa or the mental disturbance that is caused when the trigger activates. Right. So what we do is, when you whenever you are experiencing the trauma response at this level, so at this level of body and the prana, you cannot think around it. Of course, you can go for relaxation and auto suggestion, self hypnosis. These things will help, but they will help better when when it is preceded by, before those auto at the body level, psychosomatic level memory, the trauma gets locked up there in circuits to release that deep seated stress pattern from the memory of the body, to release that. Certain asanas are very good. For example, a deep fear related habitual responses, those knots are around your Manipuraka chakra, the solar plexus area. So Bhujangasana, inhaling and going up and exhaling and coming down a few times, it will help a lot. When it is combined with Shashankasana or Balasana, no, the child pose, that combined with Bhujangasana can be very good for releasing the fear. And also chanting, there is this technique called Nabik Kriya where they chant, you can chant like bija mantras like mind in the solar plexus, and you say and then lift your head up, and with the back Manipuraka chakra, keeping the mind there, you say like that. No, you can do that, or om, and then head up with the back Manipur. You can also say om. It's called Nabi Kriya. The Kriya Yoga people do that. That's very useful for releasing that fear circuit. And this Bhujangasana and all that, this can help. And also Simha Garjanasana, there is a practice that can help in releasing that deep-seated pent-up fear circuits in the navel area. Ardhamachendrasana, like that. I'm just giving an example. There are endless. So for every trauma response, we can analyze how the body, how I am reacting. And when the trigger, when the trigger is activated, when the trauma trigger is activated, I have to observe my body and which part of the body becomes imbalanced. Where I feel the imbalance, the excessive energy flow, or the excessive shrinking, contraction, or excessive expression. Excessive expression of the energy flow in terms of shaking of certain parts of the body, or experience of shrinking and inability to express oneself. You become mute. Stage fear, for example. You go and climb the stage, you forget whatever you thought, you just can't speak, cannot open your mouth, right? So that happens. So shrinking or excessive expression, it will manifest in one of these ways. So I have to see how it is expressing and then do corresponding psychophysical techniques that combine certain postures, mudras, and breathing and some sounds, etc. With that, we can loosen up that circuit. That's what in Yoga Sutra, the Sadhana Pada, the first sutra, it says tapaswadhyaya ishvara pranidhanani kriya yoga. In that active yoga consists of austerities, study, and devotion, practice of devotion to Ishvara. The reason why should you do that? It says samadhir bhavanartha klesha tanukaranarthascha, for getting a steady mind and removing the pain causing afflictions. So all this trauma response can be included in the concept of klesha. That which causes trauma is pain. Klesha is pain. Now, how this klesha is structured? No, we see the theory of kleshas in Yoga Sutra. Avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. There, right? So the physical level, psychosomatic level can be considered as abhinivesha. It is usually taken care by pranayama and certain hatha yoga practices and some mudras. You can wear some crystals that will help you. Spatika is very useful for removing the negative patterns from taking root in the mind, uh, from unconscious triggers from expressing themselves. From minimizing the activation of unconscious triggers. For that, spatikam, wearing a spatikam after some chanting incantation and wearing that and washing that spatikam regularly, and spatikamala, or you can keep a crystal ball under your pillow. Suppose you don't feel if you don't you feel too lonely, or you feel that nobody cares for you, you have not felt any love, abandonment, these kind of things, you can have a rose quartz crystal. Get a very good rose quartz crystal and keep it in your hand and invoke some Devi mantra in that and keep it under your pillow and sleep. That can at the subtle level that can give the very, very beneficial influence that will take care of this absence of love and care in life, right? Abandonment, anxiety, for all that it is very useful. There are endless tools, I'm just giving an example of what comes to my mind, what I have seen working. So Mani Mantra Aushada, crystals and herbs, a certain beads like Rudraksha, Tulasi, and then certain mantras, incantations, and certain herbal teas, Bach flower remedies. A combination of all that can work at the level of the vital, or what you call as the pranamaya kosha, and manomaya to some extent. Uh, it will percolate to manomaya because it creates a certain harmony at the prana level. It touches the mind level, but it does not cure the thought patterns much. So when a good vibe is created by the right tools, we have to use that for creating a positive reinforce, through affirmations, through the right thinking, what you call as pratipaksha bhavana. I know them, but there are some other experiences I don't know why, and I will discover only through therapy or something. I will discover, oh, I had this problem, that I experienced this. So because of that, I am feeling now. There are people who find out that when they were in the womb, their mother went through so much of trauma. Because of that, they are experiencing it now, a certain pattern. They release that. There are people who specialize in releasing that trauma. So these are all unconscious, which I don't know, but by keenly observing my responses to situations, I can probably guess that it could be because of one of these, right? But when I meditate on how are my responses, if I am able to concentrate and keenly observe my instinctive responses to certain situations, based on my purpose, which is to be in tune with Ananda, to realize Ananda at every level, and based on my understanding of cause and effect, I can say it is because of this. So I can track that response to a certain fundamental attitude and image, which is formed because of a certain subconscious image I have of the situation, a certain understanding about my relationship with the situation, of what I am in this situation. That is called asmita. So because of that sense of that self concept, a wrong self concept that is created in relationship with that situation, I experience a trigger, and it is accompanied with certain likes and dislikes, preferences, right? So raga, dvesha, raga, and below that is asmita. Asmita here, in this context of self healing, asmita can be understood as a certain self image in a relationship with a situation that triggers me. The situation that triggers a trauma response invokes a certain self image of myself in relationship with that situation. Because it invokes that certain self concept of myself, the way I consider myself, the way I see the world, a worldview and a self concept, it is just like an idea that triggers a whole set of preferences, the ragadvesha. So if I look keenly into a trigger, at the root of the trigger is a certain attitude about myself and the situation and my relationship with that situation that triggers me. I have to become aware of that. And if I am able to take my attention to that level and hold my attention there, immediately that wrong perception will correct itself. But that is not for everybody, that is only for advanced meditators. Not everybody can do that. So what we have to do is we have to deal with it at the peripheral level, And then, Pratipaksha Bhavana, there is a technique. Pratipaksha Bhavana is nothing but positive reinforcement using neuro linguistic programming. Okay, if you go to a NLP and do some positive reinforcement, that is Pratipaksha Bhavana, basically. Uh, with a certain proper philosophical structure, no, not some random positive reinforcement. A positive reinforcement that is based on a proper philosophical understanding of life. So that way, right? So if it is done, it's good. You program your subconscious and you create Pratipaksha. Use the technique of Pratipaksha Bhavana, and you rewire your response mechanism to a situation. Like that, you do, and all that, it will calm you down. Klesha tanu karanarthascha. The pain causing affliction will not be so strong. It will be manageable. When it is manageable, you will be able to meditate on it and track the faulty idea that is driving that whole trauma circle. A faulty assumption. The faulty assumption is not your fault. The faulty assumption, in the sense that assumption is not in line with the current reality. That assumption has formed because of a certain past reality that you experienced, that has created this kind of an attitude, a negative attitude towards a certain situation. For example, a woman who was not treated well by males when she was a child, she can develop a huge hatred for men. Yeah. So because of that, that woman can end up trying to satisfy her emotional needs through women instead of men. Because she is blocked with men, she will try to satisfy all her needs through women. That is one possibility. And she will not be able to have intimacy with her man. She might get married and the whole marriage might suffer because she is not able to relate to her man intimately, because of some abuse. Something has created a attitude towards men. I have noticed, because of reading certain news items about a city in India, and because of some negative experiences when I went there, I noticed a phobia for going to the town city itself. I don't want to go to that city. Whenever I think of that city, my mind comes up with a di- uh, you know complete disinterest in life and a negative interest. I don't want to go there. Try to avoid going to that city as much as possible. And notice there is no logic at all. Now every situation is not going to be like that, but it is very organic. The experience that this going to this city means trouble is very organic. It comes as a huge, it has a huge mental block to go to that city, simply because of repeated negative experiences of going in that city. And also that negative experience is reinforced by all the wrong news, news about the wrong things that happened there. But somehow these social media feed knows what you are thinking. It reinforces your bias, right? I noticed that, and then I have to sit and, if I have to go to that city, I will have to sit and rewire it. So I have kept it in the agenda. One day I have to sit and rewire my attitude towards the city. And the test is that if I properly rewire, when I go to the city next time, my subconscious wiring should attract positive situations, not negative situations. That is a certain um, that is a certain observable detail that our shastras say, that if your background attitude towards a place or a person or a situation is very positive, it is highly likely that you will attract only positive um, experiences in that context. Usually, usually for the most cases, there are some exceptions in every rule. So don't quote an exception saying, I went, this person came to India with all the positive feeling, and then the person got robbed and then got raped. Don't, these things happen. But positive sankalpa, attracting positive situation, is usually the norm. Of course, there are exceptions to it. So that can be one kind of a test, probably, to see that if it is overall experience is better, and your general feeling, whenever that trigger comes into your attention, whenever that place is mentioned or that person is mentioned, or when you see that person or you remember that situation or the person, The immediate response from inside is not a cringe response, or not a fear response, not a negative response, but a more neutral, either a neutral response, which is open to possibilities, or a positive response. In terms of, if you have forgiven somebody, whenever you remember that person, you will not feel anger. You will feel either compassion or empathy, or pretty neutral, nothing, like nobody. But you will not feel anger, you will not feel revenge, if you have really forgiven that person. You have really forgiven that context, forgiven that context of life, right? So, at the manomaya level, we have to do these positive reinforcements through words, through visualizations, and all. But bhavana, through the sat bhavana, you have to uh, create a positive reinforcement. And at the attitude level, when we do that, we calm down, and at the attitude level, we can track that ego structure, that is the hurt me, the suffering me, that version of I who is uh, affected and suffering and is experiencing that trauma, that pain. So that me, I have to examine that me, that version of me, and see the falseness of it, or see the limitation of it, through contemplation and dialogue. A combination of dialogue and contemplation, we can change that self image that sustains that trauma circuit, right? Which is Vijnanamaya Kosha, where the Vijnanamaya level. So this is how you deal with that. In Yoga Sutra, they say that the antecedent is resolved in the precedent. Abhinivesha is resolved in the respective Dvesha or the Raga, and then the Dvesha is resolved in the Raga, Raga Dvesha is resolved in the Asmita. And at the root of the Asmita is the wrong idea, or um, the erroneous thought of taking the good to be bad and the bad to be good, permanent to be temporary, temporary to be permanent. That avidya, or the wrong concept, that sustains that traumatic, painful sense of self. That wrong concept is broken. The fallacy that sustains this traumatic sense of self, that fallacy, the wrong idea, is challenged, and it is realized that it is how it is a mistake. And when it is realized that it is wrong, it is cleared and is replaced with the right knowledge, and the whole trauma circuit is gone. So this is how we deal with this in yoga. It is explained in the concept of kleshas, which I explained in a little more detailed way here. Right? So one thing that can help is, at the prana level, I said that once the body level agitation is reduced, you don't feel very agitated, you don't feel too much of the sensation level, but still inside you don't feel very good. You feel a little dull, or you feel a little sad, little down. For that, mantra japa is very, very useful. So you can just sit and chant a mantra, your mantra or any mantra, from that, just get into that, accept, and completely go into that emotional state that you have, accept it and go totally into that. And from that root of that emotional self, sense of self, from that root of that emotional state, reach out to something that represents the divine for you. God, some representation of the divine, some represent your guru, or any spiritual context that you appreciate very much, something that is spiritually inspires you. Just reach out to the supreme being in any way that comes most naturally from that core of that emotional feeling that you have, and chant some mantra that is corresponding to that. If you want to reach out for protection, it's usually Vishnu. If you want to reach out for complete transformation and uh, cutting off the negatives, it is usually Lord Shiva. If it is very heavy, dense energy and you want to clear it, Bhairava. Especially, the kind of energy you feel near cremation grounds, or you feel near this. When you go near burial ground, there is a certain rot and dullness, So when you feel too much negativity in the system, Bhairava will clear it very fast. Ramanama will clear it. Um, if you need some focus and grounding, Lord Ganesha is very good. And if you want energy, vitality, and combined with a feel good, Goddess is very good. And if you want kind of an awakened state of positivity where you are ready to take on new possibilities, Subramanya is very good. These are all some points that I'm telling based on my experience, but you can experiment it, toy with it, play with it. You have complete freedom in reaching out. Just chant some divine names from there. It need not be a very structured mantra, just some divine names. Shambho, Shambho, Shiva Shambho, Har Har Mahadev, something, whatever comes. No, Ram, 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 whatever comes, just chant. Go into the core of the emotional feeling, whatever feeling you have, and from there, just chant. Or sometime reach out to God from there. In whatever form you are able to relate to, in whatever idea of God that you are able to relate to from there, in the most natural way, when you are completely into that emotion from there, just allow your emotional mind to reach out to the divine in the most natural way possible with zero restriction. Just find some private space and do it. Go on for a few minutes and it'll clear. And if you are a very knowledgeable musician, certain ragas are very good. From the deepest emotion, if you're trained in classical music, from the core of the emotional state, allow some raga to come out, and do an alapana of that raga, experience that raga, sing the swaras. It will revive. Because every raga has a raga devata, a certain spirit of the raga. And that can energetically alter how you feel inside. Right? So if you want to clear that sadness, raga mohanam or kalyani will help. If you want to get contemplative, some other ragas will help. If you want to feel divinely inspired, raga desh will help. So like that we have. So if you are for that, you have to be classically trained, otherwise it will not work. So these are some tools that I have experienced, used, and benefited. So try them out. Post your questions in the next class if you have any. I can try some of your methods and see how it works. And if you have any questions, you doubts, or if you want some tools and tips for enhancing the efficiency of whatever you have done, just bring it out to the next class and we can discuss further. So until then, let us use all our free time for contemplation and learning to live life more deeply, more intensely, with more conflict free passion. And let us embrace life in all its dimensions, because life is Ananda. There is only Ananda outside, Ananda inside. From Ananda we have come into Ananda. In Ananda we live, and into Ananda we all go back. Okay. So with that, I'll finish the class. Om Purnamada Purnamitam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Thank you.